Trust the prophets. Welcome in. I am Tim. You can find me on X at Riders Up Tim, and I am here today to bring you another in our Kentucky Derby Spotlight series as we take a quick dive into each of the top contenders for the upcoming 151st running of the Kentucky Derby. And today we are looking at the horse who finished first in the Kentucky Derby point standings, and of course we are talking about none other than Burnham Square. So let's go ahead and jump straight in, talk about Mr. Burnham Square here. So Burnham Square is owned by Whittam Thoroughbreds and trained by Ian Wilkes. Is a 3-year-old, of course, and a gelding. So this horse last time out in the Bluegrass Stakes had BJ Hernandez up as a jockey, and you'll look at the 3 races there in Florida, had Edgar Zayas on board. And I will tell you that I heard Ian say that Edgar hadn't done anything wrong. He was not necessarily taken off the horse, but as they came back to Kentucky, obviously he's a Florida rider, and they had the opportunity to ride BJ. And he said that the connections decided they just could not turn down the opportunity to put him on board the horse. If the connections are not familiar, they should be. If you go back to 2012 in the Breeders' Cup Classic, Fort Larned, this is who it was: Whittam Thoroughbreds, Ian Wilkes, and BJ Hernandez. They hooked up to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. I can't even talk today. The Breeders' Cup Classic back in 2012. So now we find the connections here back in the Kentucky Derby with a horse that I think has a decent chance, and that's what we're here to talk about. But before I move on, just point out a couple more things here on the past performance lines here. Lifetime, 6 starts, 3 wins, the first, second, and the third. The only time out of the money was there in the Fountain of Youth. And I will point out as well that Ian said that basically going into the Fountain of Youth, he kind of figured out that he thinks he might have been training the horse completely wrong and training him too easy, and decided to get a little bit tougher with him. And it looks to me like it's kind of paid off. Not only do you see the win on top there, but if you look at the bottom line, which the workout there at Churchill Downs, which is where they've had the horse, and since he came back to Kentucky, other than shipping down for the Bluegrass, but that's a really sharp workout there. That 59-3 there, 5 furlongs at Churchill. So the horse seems to be coming into his own here right at the right time. And you look at those wins. I think it's incredible that we have a horse, another horse here, starting in the Kentucky Derby, who started off in a claiming race, a maiden claiming race, and got a good second there before stepping up to maiden special weight at Churchill Downs. And if you look when they started the win, the other thing that kind of changed on the form, other than the track position, was that the addition of blinkers. And Ian said that blinkers made a huge difference on this horse. Basically, the comments were that the horse is a workout monster in the mornings. He can work inside horses, outside horses, and doesn't care. But you put him in the afternoon and all the distractions really take a toll on him. So the addition of blinkers has been a huge plus, and the horse has definitely moved forward. We'll talk about a couple more things here as we move on, but let's do just that. Talk about some of the things that I see as kind of the pluses and minuses here, strengths and weaknesses. And I think that Bluegrass Stakes win right on the top, closing against the track bias from last to first, was a lot better than people think it was. I'm going to show a quick video here just to set this up. We are coming down the back stretch, just hitting the half mile marker here in this particular race. And Burnham Square right now is at the very back of the pack and just starting to make his move. Obviously, that's East Avenue up front here. But I want you to look as we hit the top of the stretch here and they turn the camera angle to the head-on shot. Burnham Square's on the far outside. He's got about 4 horses, room for a 5th if inside those. He's about 6 wide as we hit the stretch. If you see him right there, he checked and had to move outside to get around a horse that kind of came back into him a little bit. So he's having to overcome a few things here. And then as he comes on right before the wire, I want you to look at this little burst here. And it's like right there, he just kind of gives a little bit of extra effort. And I think the horse had plenty more, galloped out ahead of East Avenue, gonna relish the 1.25 miles, I think, in the Kentucky Derby. And the extra distance, especially as a closer, is something to keep an eye on there. But I think that's noteworthy there. And the track has been playing to speed, and those horses just off the speed. And to come from all the way back in a dirt race is not something we've seen a lot so far this spring meet at Keeneland. We know the Kentucky Derby always, despite the horses that are coming up in the preps, what the preps look like, how many horses are running up front, it really doesn't matter. We always say there's a lack of speed, and we get to the Kentucky Derby and there never is. And I think that Burnham Square is going to have a lot of pace to run in here. You've got 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 horses that want to be on the lead or near it. East Avenue, who we saw there, almost go gate to wire before just being nosed out by Burnham Square there at the finish of the Bluegrass Stakes. Owen Almighty, is he out? Is he in? Right now, at least he's in. But he's another one who is going to press the pace. Then you've got the Baffert trio of Rodriguez and Citizen Bull and Matticat Road. I think American Promise wants to be forwardly placed. And then you've got the wild card of the Japanese horses in Luxor Cafe and Admire Daytona. It seems like one of the Japanese horses always comes in and applies some serious pace pressure. So I think we've got no shortage of pace here in this race. And Burnham Square is going to have a lot of pace to run into. So I'm not concerned about the pace scenario and where he likes to be. His Damn Sire line is pretty incredible. If you look at the line, and he's got a long line of routers all the way back to Third Dam Sire being Secretariat himself. And while the Dam side seems heavy on turf horses, Dam Sires are kind of what I look at as passing a lot of the trace into the Colts. And he's got a long line of sires who have run the classic distance. I have no worries about the distance whatsoever. Strong horses in the line there. As I mentioned, obviously on the lead in, he was our top points leader, just edging out Sandman, who a lot of people think highly of. Look, it wasn't just one race that got the horse in. He showed in a couple of races in the Holy Bull, and he showed that he deserves to be here. And I think he's being discounted by a lot of people, and maybe to their peril here, as we talk about here in a moment. And I think he's kind of proven at Churchill Downs. Again, I go back to that workout, and if you look also, his second race was at Churchill, and that was a decent third. And yes, maiden special weight third. How does that translate? But I just think he likes the surface. He did go down to Gulfstream and do okay down there. But obviously that work as he got back up to Churchill just tells me that I think he likes the surface, and he's got the services of one of the best on the track there in BJ Hernandez. And I'll talk about that here in a second, but fast enough. This is the thing I hear probably more than anything about how slow the Bluegrass Stakes was, especially as they were coming home. I'm completely discounting that, and I'm going to tell you why. I live here in the Louisville, Kentucky area, right on the river. We've dealt with all this flooding, the amount of rain that led into last weekend and opening day and Bluegrass Day being pushed back 2 days each. It's been record levels of rain. And when I say record levels, we're talking maybe top 10 of all time, and in some places even higher than that. The flooding has been pretty severe. When you look at what Keeneland looked like, I was there on opening day on Sunday, and the track stayed sloppy, and we got rain all day long. And that is, again, rain at the end of 4 days of torrential rain, to where they ended up with about 8 or 9 inches of rain there in the Lexington area. When we started out on Monday morning, we had a muddy track. Then we had a good track, and then we had a fast track. And we did the same thing again on Tuesday, to where we started out with an off track and we ended up with a fast track. Look, fast might mean it was a little bit dry on top, but it was far from fast. And I've got a statistic here that's going to kind of back that up. As I record this, we're starting the third week at Keeneland here. And today, Wednesday, April 16th, the first race at Keeneland today was a baby dash, 4.5 furlongs on the dirt. Since Keeneland went back to the dirt surface from the Tapeta, the synthetic, they have had 92 baby dashes. This race, which was won by a Wesley Ward colt who looks to be a decent animal, not slow at all, in a 4.5 furlongs, third slowest of 92 in the history of Keeneland, going back to since they reinstalled the dirt. The track's just playing slow, and you can look at the fractions and say what you want. And I think that's why a lot of people are looking at the speed figure that Burnham Square got and just kind of saying that it's overinflated. I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure it is, because the track is just playing weirdly. It is starting, now that we've had several days in a row of good weather, it is starting to truly become a little bit drier. But there still has to be water down in the surface. I can tell you my yard is still holding water, and we haven't had rain in a week. But it's just something to consider, that I think that you can minimize the speed there and say that that race is probably a little better than it looks. So let's talk about another weakness, and that is going to be race position and traffic, because his race position, I'd be surprised if he's not dead last when they start out. He's going to at least be vying for that position. And that obviously means he's got 19 horses of traffic to overcome. That's a major concern. But let me go back to my man, BJ Hernandez. If anybody can get him around the Churchill surface, it's Brian Hernandez Jr. That guy knows the track. He does well there. He rides it well. You saw that last year as he pulled off the Oaks Kentucky Derby double. Got Mystic Dan to the win, brought him up the rail, said his boot rubbed the rail as it came up the rail. And he just knows his way around that track and can find his way through traffic. If anybody can get this horse through the traffic at Churchill Downs on the first Saturday in May, it's Brian Hernandez Jr. This last one seems a little concerning, but when you go back and look at the race and then evaluate it, maybe it's not. But it is something to think about. Is that Brian also said that it looked like in the early stages of the Bluegrass Stakes that Burnham Square didn't like the kickback he was getting. He seemed like he was reacting a little bit to all the kickback. Well, we know in the Kentucky Derby field, if you're last in a field of 20, kickback you're getting. Okay, so that's something to think about. But it didn't keep him from circling everybody in the Bluegrass Stakes, and I think it shouldn't be something that would keep him moving forward. And again, I think this horse is maturing. He's growing. He's kind of coming into his own at the right time, and that kind of brings me here to my final thoughts. And that is, for me anyway, I'm not telling you what to do with your bets. I'm just sharing some thoughts. For me, he's a must include. I think a lot of people minimize the success and the recent success of the Bluegrass Stakes, and everybody just wants to say that no horse has won the Bluegrass Stakes, has won the Kentucky Derby in some time. True, but 3 of the last 4 have been in the trifecta. Okay, whether you're talking last year with Sierra Leone finishing second, or Zandon and Essential Quality 2 and 3 years ago, or 3 and 4 years ago, excuse me. 3 out of the last 4 have been in the trifecta. So I think the Bluegrass is producing Kentucky Derby results, and something that you have to consider. So yes, maybe they're not getting the horse on top. Maybe you don't want to play Burnham Square on top, but I think it's a huge mistake to take a horse that appears to be peaking at the right time, who is moving forward with connections that do very well at Churchill Downs, with a jockey that knows the track, and a horse that just seems to kind of be growing up and coming into it a little bit. I'm not leaving him off my tickets, but you're obviously controlling your own wagers, and that's what I recommend you do. And I just thought I would share some thoughts as I see it as far as Burnham Square goes. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I know you will. And let me know how crazy I am for liking Burnham Square a little bit. I do like him a little bit more underneath than I do on top. I will tell you, my top 2 horses going into this were Journalism and Sovereignty. And I think it's Journalism's Derby to lose. But we know that a lot happens in the Derby, and the favorites aren't always there. And I'm going to play against Journalism to lose, and if it's his race to lose. And I'm going to have Burnham Square on my ticket. Let me know if he's going to be on yours, what you think. Leave the comments, and make sure that you keep tuned in to Trust the Profits as we continue with our series and all of the contenders in the Kentucky Derby Spotlight. Until the next video, we will see you then.